There's a bit of mystery. The mummy is amazing. This is a chance to see something that you'd have to travel a great distance. This year marks our 60th anniversary, and we're opening with a piece that's been with us almost as long as the museum's founding. And it's very special. It is a 22nd dynasty mummy, which is actually quite rare. There's very few of them. You're going to be able to see firsthand something that was buried until the 1880s, 1890s. She was taken from her tomb by a missionary, brought to the United States, and eventually came to Statesville.
When we got the mummy in 1957, we didn't know where she was from in Egypt, we just knew that she was Egyptian. In the late 90s, we took samples and photographs from her to the British Museum to a curator named John Taylor, who looked at photographs of her and helped us identify her as being from the 22nd dynasty Faiyum region. And the way he was able to tell that is because of the wooden hands that are on her cartonnage. She has very distinctive, I like to call them tattoos, on her hands and her knuckles that are blue and red. And that's something that was only done in the Faiyum region and only really done in the 22nd dynasty.
We call her Margaret because the children gave her that name in the 1980s as a part of a contest. We don't know her real Egyptian name. There's no hieroglyphs on the coffin that are a name, which is rather unusual because without a name, her body would not have gone into its afterlife.
These hieroglyphs are basically prayers that come from the Book of the Dead. And the interesting thing about the mummy that we have is that the prayers are incomplete. At the bottom, there's a symbol that's basically the Egyptian version of an ellipsis, like ... so on and so forth. But it's actually not uncommon to do that. When you have a pharaoh or royalty, they would write all the prayers because they're spending all the money on his mummification. For her, she's sort of the middle class, and so they wouldn't have spent as much money or time writing all the hieroglyphs.
If you really like mummies and history and stuff, you can come look at this to see how old it is and see the hieroglyphs on it and see the illustration on it.
These four figures right here are the four sons of Horus, and they are special to mummification in that they help watch over the deceased. There is a human-headed god, a baboon-headed god, a hawk-headed god, and a jackal-headed god, and each one watches over a different organ of the body.
Unlike other mummies, Margaret doesn't have the tight wrappings around each part of her body. We don't know why that happened, and so that's a mystery that we actually have incorporated into the exhibit, and the children will get an opportunity to look through 3 different possibilities of what might have happened to Margaret to make her be buried this way.
Sometimes they bury stuff with it, like they bury like jewelry and anything that's valuable.
I hope that we can expose kids to a different culture and sort of broaden their minds a little bit.
I guess they got to ride for free on a camel. I have to pay for my ride on a camel, so.
We want people to have fun. You know, history is far from boring, and Margaret's story is definitely one full of twists and turns, and so they can come here to the museum and discover it for themselves.
You need to come here. It's so amazing.
Thanks so much, Russ. The museum wants to raise funds to create a permanent exhibition space for the mummy treasure of Al Faiyum. You can find more details about the Iredell Museum on our website at pbscharlotte.org. Well, that does it for this week.